ask about catching and passing Tom Brady and becoming the greatest quarterback of all times. And here is what Mahomes had to say to that.
I mean, I'm not even close to halfway, so I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I mean, your goal is to be the best player that you can be. And I know I'm blessed to be around a lot of great players around me. And so right now, it's doing whatever I can to beat a great 49ers team and trying to get that third ring. And then if you ask me that question in like 15 years, and I'll see if I can get close to 7. But 7 seems like a long ways away still.
So Mahomes is saying all the right things, taking the high road, the humble road, maybe even the realistic road. But many others are already making the GOAT case for Patrick Mahomes. Keyshawn, can you see Mahomes passing Brady to become the GOAT?
Ooh, Skip. I mean, he's right. He's not even halfway. Yeah. Stop lying to me, Pat. Talking about you ain't even thinking about it. Of course you're thinking about it because it's out there in the universe. That's all we're talking about now is that at some point in time, can you or can you not catch up to Patrick Mahomes? Look, 7 Super Bowls are tough, right, Skip? I keep always saying people act like Super Bowls are a bowl of M&Ms. You just grab them as many as you want, and you keep it moving. That's not the case. To win one Super Bowl as hard as hell, as you know, you've covered enough of them. And in this situation, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is one step closer to getting to 7. But 7 he probably won't accomplish 7. Just probably won't. I'm looking at more like the 4 number, maybe the 5 number, including this year. Yeah. It's just hard to get to a Super Bowl. There are many great players that have come in the National Football League that have gone on to put gold jackets on, have never sniffed a Super Bowl. Dan Marino played in the Super Bowl his second year, never seen it again. So it's a hard thing to process. Now, in the end, is Andy Reid still going to be around? What happens to Kelsey? Can they find another sort of kind of weapon like a Kelsey? Does Rashid Rice continue to elevate his game? Do the other guys, MVS and all those guys, start to step up? Could Pacheco obviously take another step? Is the defense, is Spags going to get a job next year as another head coach opportunity? Like, you got to think about all the things that align themselves with that GOAT status and greatness. Tom Brady had one coach for the most part his entire career, right? He had basically the same system for his entire career. Whether he created it, Josh McDaniels, Charlie Weiss, whoever. But when you're in those situations, you can thrive. The moment that they start to crack a little bit, which means that people start to go in different directions because their careers evolve, you just never know what might derail the situation. But I think if he got to 4, he certainly is going to be in that conversation, Richard.
No question. Obviously, he's on his way. He's been in the league 6 years, been to 6 AFC championships, been to 4 Super Bowls. So, I mean, there's nothing, it may not be easy for everybody else. For everybody else, you might be right, Key, where you're like, man, it's hard to get back to the Super Bowl. It just does not seem hard for this kid. I mean, the circumstances keep changing, the personnel keeps changing, the defenses change, and he keeps getting there. And you look and say, hey, he can't do it without Tyreek. Then he gets there without Tyreek, but he can't win it without Tyreek. Then he wins it without Tyreek, and he gets there again without Tyreek. And I just don't know what it is they're going to be able to do to stop him. If the defense that he gets keeps getting better, they're still young. They do a good job of paying the right people, not paying the wrong people, refreshing the cupboards when they go bare. You know, they had Tyrann Mathieu. Now they got Justin Reed in the secondary. They keep, they lost their great corner in Charvarius Ward. Then they got another great corner in Snead. And they always wearing these random numbers, 38, 35. It's hard to even look at him and be like, man, he's strapping. I feel like if Snead was wearing like 24 or something, he would have been an All-Pro this year. But that's a story for a different day. But I do think that he's going to continue to be in the conversation. I don't know about eclipsing him because there's so much pageantry there. There's so much that Brady did during a time. He went against some really phenomenal defenses, some historic defenses, some historic teams, some historic rivalries. And Patrick Mahomes just doesn't have a rival like that in his time. We keep putting rivals in there for him, but they don't have anything accomplished. Like Tom had Peyton. You got Aaron. You got all these guys that are getting MVPs and that are winning Super Bowls. Well, Aaron won 1, Peyton won 2. guys that you could say, hey, okay, these are his rivals in these situations. But Patrick, there's nobody else winning it. There's nobody else. There's Patrick has won it, and Burrow hasn't won it. Josh Allen hasn't won it. Lamar hasn't won it. So it's hard to like put him in there right now until we see how the story plays out.
All right, my turn. This whole conversation for me just gets silly. And yeah, maybe I should disqualify myself. I'm a Brady fan. I always have been. I do not know him personally, so it's not a personal connection whatsoever. I'm just looking at the facts and the body of work. And to me, it almost smacks of that this question keeps rearing its head. It's like the Brady hate is still alive and well, or hell, that Brady jealousy, that Brady resentment. It's the whole internet age of who's got next, forget about the past, it's only about the present, we're all prisoners of this moment, and this moment belongs to Patrick Mahomes, as Richard so eloquently stated. He just keeps getting there. By hook or crook, he just gets there. He doesn't have time, he gets there. And I give you all of the above. But if we start looking hard at bodies of work so far, and Patrick's already got a notable one, I say that in 10 Super Bowls that Tom Brady played, not one time did he play remotely as poorly as Patrick played, ironically, against Brady in Patrick's second Super Bowl, when Patrick just had a bad game. He just stunk in that game. You can't show me one of Tom's 10 Super Bowls in which he stunk like that, played nearly that poorly. And that was a 31-9 loss. Obviously, it was at Tampa, so Tom got to play it on his home field, but it was still 31-9. It wasn't even close. And if you look hard at Brady's accomplishments in his 10, he actually played well enough to win all 10 of his Super Bowls. I can make the case because in the first Eli Super Bowl, he did his part, and then Belichick's defense couldn't stop Eli from going 75 yards for a touchdown in the final 2 minutes of that one. And if you recall the second Eagles Super Bowl, Tom threw for an all-time playoff record 505 yards and hung 33 on a top 5 defense and lost 41-33 in part because Belichick mysteriously, inexplicably benched Malcolm Butler in that game. I still can't get it through my psyche, but I believe that Bill Cost, the one that would be in question, was the second Eli Super Bowl, in which we came down to one throw late in the game that if it's caught, if it's completed, we're having a different conversation because I think they're going to go win the game at this point. If we could see it, it's the Wes Welker play. It wasn't a great throw, but it was a catchable throw. If you get two hands on the ball and you're a receiver of that caliber, Keyshawn, is it fair to say you should catch the football? If you get both hands on the football, does Keyshawn catch that football? Yes. Are you built like Wes Welker? No, you're not. You're, what's Wes? Like 5'9" or 10, and you're 6'4".
That's a very difficult catch for Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Tom put it in an area where only his guy can catch it, but look, it's not Tom's fault. It's not Welker's fault. The play just happened.
Okay, I give you that. And
but what I'll say, what I'll say to combat that, Skip, and the point I would assume Keyshawn would make is that Bill also got him a couple. There was the 10-3 Rams game where his offense scored 10 points, and I don't hear you mention that, but that's a win for him.
Okay,
that's a ring for him. But he only scored 10 points in the game.
I was going to let Skip just finish, Richard.
Okay, but who had the touchdown drive in the fourth quarter to win the game? Who threw a
There was only
great
one
pass
touchdown drive in the game, Skip.
Okay.
So you again, one touchdown drive. So you keep saying these numbers. You can talk about 500 in a loss, but you can't talk about one touchdown scored in a whole game in a win. And then you talk about the Malcolm Butler interception. You talk about there's a number of times where they got things done that it wasn't necessarily Tom's fault that they won, but he gets credit just like as he deservedly so.
Time out. Against the Legion of Boom, Tom Brady in the fourth quarter threw for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he didn't get it done?
And they got an interception at the 1-yard line, or he would have lost that game, Skip. So again, you could put it both ways. give him credit where it's due, but don't sit there and try to give him credit for things that didn't happen. Oh, he should have won this Super Bowl. He won the ones he was supposed to win. He lost the ones he was supposed to lose. But don't try to take away what Patrick Mahomes
backup
is doing.
quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles when you throw for 505 and put up 33, and that's Brady's
Skip,
fault?
nobody cares about
you know
what you do in a loss.
You know what happens though, Skip, in situations. You know what happens in situations where backup quarterbacks or backup players, they empty the kitchen sink. They just empty it out on you, and they come with Philly and plays like that you may never have seen them run before, and all of a sudden he catches you by surprise. Look, I understand what you're saying. Brady does get some credit, but you can't just continue to disrespect Bill Belichick as if he was just a guy standing on the sidelines with a headset on.
I didn't say that, but he did cost Tom 2 of them.
Okay, so do you think the first victory of the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Rams, not the second one, that's all Tom, it had nothing to do with Willie McGinnis and them and that defense being stout at a time when they needed to, with the greatest show on turf.
From day one, it was a masterpiece of a defensive game plan against the greatest show on turf.
Not once, Skip, but twice.
But what do you mean twice?
The second greatest show on turf. Not the first greatest show on turf, but the second, later on. The one that Richard just referred to. The one that what was the score? 9-3 or whatever it was?
It was 10-3.
10-3. That defensive
Was it 13?
design was incredible.
Yeah, it's 13-3.
13-3. This was the high-flying, mighty Los Angeles Sean McVay. If I stand next to him, head coach, I'm getting a job.
Jared Goff. It was Jared Goff.
Okay, but I had to make Jared Goff into a pumpkin. You can't, Skip, but go ahead, man. I'll let you go ahead.
Wade Phillips had Tom's number his whole career. That was Wade
So
Phillips.
now it's Wade Phillips.
Well, it was. He had to go back and look at what happened at Denver. Go back and look at what happened.
It's Jared Goff, but then you lose to Nick Foles. You know, Skip, you can make whatever case you want. You can make whatever excuse you want. Tom didn't. Tom 100% lost to Nick Foles. He 100% did. But that's what it looks
Was he
like.
the starting quarterback in the game?
Skip.
How
Was
can
he
he
the
do
starting
any
quarterback?
more?
So,
How can he do any more?
Skip.
Seriously.
So how could he do any less when his team scores 13 points against the Rams? I mean, you could barely do any less, but he gets the win, and you don't sit there and say, "Well, Tom gets the win for 13 points." No, you don't. You just say,
He had the
"Hey, you won a Super
game-winning
Bowl.
drive in the
Congratulations."
fourth quarter.
He had
threw
one
on a
touchdown
pass that
drive
Keyshawn
in the
says
entire-
is one of
he
Tom's
had
best throws of
one
his career. Am I right?
Touchdown drive the entire game. But to this point, Skip, this is what I'll say. Mahomes has been in the league 6 years. He has 2 MVPs. If you compare it to Brady's first 6 years, he didn't have any MVPs. He had 3 Super Bowls. He won 3. Mahomes went been to 4. He has 2.
Yeah.
He has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He has 2 regular season MVPs. The resume that he has right now is stacking favorably in Mahomes' corner.
Okay,
which is
time
fine.
out.
You know, it's
So-
a long story.
So I've seen Patrick win 2 Super Bowls, and I give you that, except in the first one, he did everything in his power to give it back to San
You don't get
Francisco.
to say except. You don't get to say
To
except.
give it back.
But he
You
didn't
don't
give
get
it
to
back.
say
He threw a
except.
late third
He
quarter
won the
interception.
games.
He threw an early
Skip.
fourth quarter interception. It's 20-10.
It does
San
not
Francisco.
matter.
It
It
does
does
matter.
not
He
matter.
was so
It doesn't
fortunate.
because he won the game.
Oh.
He won the game, and he won the MVP of the game, and he
Yeah.
won the MVP two times. Skip.
Yeah.
And so when you say these things to try to diminish it, it
I'm not
almost sounds like
diminishing.
you're
I'm just telling you,
haterish.
I'm spitting
Because-
facts back at you. In the game last year, he threw for a grand
not
total of
spitting any facts.
182 yards against a torchable defense that
And
fell
won.
completely apart this year. And he needed
won.
a scoop and score by his defense, a defensive touchdown, and he needed let me finish. He needed Kadarius Toney to go 65 yards in the middle of the fourth quarter with a punt down to the 5-yard line to give him a cheap, easy touchdown to win that game. I'm sorry, 182 against Philadelphia?
But Skip,
Wow.
you're not.
They were the number 2 pass defense in the league at the time.
Oh, they were
Whatever.
horrible.
I hear you.
Dak had just thrown for 350 against them.
I
4
like
touchdowns.
Skip, I
I
like
thought
Tom
Dak was
Brady
terrible.
too.
I thought Dak was terrible.
Yeah.
Skip, I like Tom Brady too.
Yeah.
I like Tom Brady too. Always
Yeah.
been knowing Tom Brady since he
Yeah.
got into the league.
Yeah.
But here's what I would say: you just tried to discredit that man's accomplishments in the Super Bowl. Because
I'm just telling you the truth.
Well,
He hasn't had a spectacular Super Bowl yet. He hasn't had a signature.
Here's
We say, whoa, look at that.
Here's what I'm gonna say.
Well, he got signature MVPs from it.
That's your truth. That's your fact.
It's
Now,
everybody.
now, if I want to break down Tom Brady's Super Bowl in Tampa, okay, and look at his pedestrian numbers for Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and I want to say the reason he won that Super Bowl is because of Todd Bowles in that defense. That a blown coverage when Scotty Miller scores a touchdown. Like, if I want to just do all of that sort of stuff, you can. Don't do that, though, because it's not fair.
Okay,
A win is a win is a win, no matter how you got it.
So here's the ultimate irony of this. When we do the Jordan-LeBron debate, we're always at a loss because we don't know how it would have stacked up for Jordan to actually have played against LeBron James. But we did get to see twice in big playoff games Brady versus Mahomes.
Yes.
And at Mahomes' house at Arrowhead in overtime, Brady outdueled him because he converted 3 straight 3rd and 10s to win the game.
He outdueled him, no question about it.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes goes to the Super Bowl if D4 toe isn't on the line.
Okay.
So we can play that game.
I know, but Brady did outduel him quarterback to quarterback.
And he's in his 2nd year as a player in the National Football League, where Brady's like in his 18th year.
All right. And yet in the Super Bowl, they go head to head, and Patrick just stinks. And Brady didn't have a great game, but he had a way better game than Patrick did.
And Patrick did
Brady
have
had a better defense. Brady had a better defense. Patrick Mahomes had me and you trying to block for him. Like, come on, though. The conversation isn't about statistics, man. The conversation is about.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm a total stats guy, Geek. You know me. I'll take numbers. But at the end of the day, in this situation, Skip, we're talking about a kid in his first 6 years, got 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 Super Bowl wins, been to the Super Bowl 4 times, is currently in the Super Bowl, so we don't know what he's going to do in this situation. I'm hoping he takes a L. But what you're saying right now doesn't really compute. The plays that you hate on, like the play you're seeing right here in the Super Bowl where he completes a 3rd and 15 pass, and you're like, he's off his back foot and he's floating away and he just throws up a floater. And completes it. And completes it. I hear you, but some of the greatest plays in the history of the game look like that. It look like prayers, look like miracles. That's what makes them great plays. And that's what changes trajectories of franchises and programs. And that's why he got the MVP of the game. Skip, so you can say what you want to say to try to revise history, but the history is what it is.
I'm
clearly, because you can't.
Holding it. I'm trying to remind everybody that in 10 Super Bowls, Tom Brady averaged 304 yards passing in 10. Patrick Mahomes has yet to throw for 300 in any Super Bowl. He averages 246 for 3 Super Bowls. Okay, well, I'm just showing you quarterback to quarterback. If we're talking about who's better, man, I'll take Brady all day and all night, because in his first 6 Super Bowls in New England, he had game-winning drives in the 4th quarter overtime every time. He threw for 124 against you guys. He threw for 246 against Atlanta just in the 4th quarter and overtime. It's impossibly great. I need to see one of those from Patrick. Just show me one. I just need one.
All he's going to show you is the rings, Tim. He doesn't have to. He's going to show you the rings, and that's all they're going to remember.
He had to against Tom head-to-head, and he didn't.
He was out there with a half a team.
Oh, half a team. Brady had half an offensive line half the time.
The conversation is about, could he catch him as the greatest of all time? I don't know what that is, because some people would argue that Montana's the greatest of all time. 4 Super Bowls, no interception. Some people would argue that, depending on who you're having a conversation with. Some people has already, as you mentioned, opening up the show, have already decided that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the greatest of all time.
Right.
And some people say Brady is the greatest of all time.
Okay. And yet, all I heard for years and years was, no, it's Belichick. It's Belichick. It's Belichick. And then Brady gets dumped in New England, goes to Tampa Bay, where they were 7-9 the year before, and in a pandemic year, turns them completely around into a Super Bowl champion. And Bill, over the last 4 years, goes 29-38 in New England. So it wasn't all Bill. I don't.
Whoever said it was all Bill?
Everybody did. That's what
I don't know what the hell they talking about, Skip. Nobody ever said it was all Bill.
I heard it was 75%.
Okay, well, you hearing it from the wrong people that know what the hell they talking about. Okay? They play equally together.
Sat in your chair have said it's.
I have nothing to do with the other people that said it this share.
But I'm
just telling you,
history.
I'm telling you, it's equal share on both the win and the loss column.
Yeah.
The man himself, Tom Brady, would tell you. Okay? Not only that, he had help on the defensive side. You know, there were Hall of Famers and borderline Hall of Famers that played with him.
Yeah.
That wasn't on his side of the ball. How did they become that? They became Hall of Famer, borderline Hall of Famers, because they dominated when they needed to. Willie McGinnis, all-time sack leader in the postseason, for a reason. For a reason.
Yeah.
So you got to give everybody equal share.
I do.
You got to, man.
I think Chris Jones is really good. I give him full credit for what he brings to that defense.
You got to. I'm not saying this all Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Nor would I say it's all Tom Brady. Andy Reid, man, Big Red. He's calling the plays and he's designing things to help Patrick Mahomes get open, Kelsey get open so they can catch the balls, and Rasheed Rice be able to do what he needs to do in his first Super Bowl. But you want to discredit the head coach that won 6 Super Bowls and been to 9 of them, that discovered Tom Brady, made a very, very shrewd executive decision to start a guy over a guy they just gave $100 million to. But he gets no credit. He gets nothing. He's just a guy with a uniform on the sideline with a headset.
With a hoodie on.
A hoodie, his uniform.
Sweater on.
Well, the NFL world just lined up to sign him after he got fired at New England. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. All right, up next, we got to talk about last night. More specifically, you know, to me, the Chiefs actually seem to, are you ready for this? They seem to love talking about Taylor Swift. No resentment.